All right, guys, this will be the first of probably 3 videos about chapter 27, which is all about circuits. I think we already know what a circuit is, so I won't go ahead and define it, but I'll just note that in this first video, we're going to think about just the simplest case, which are single loop circuits. And then we'll take a look in the second video at the case of multi-loop circuits. And I think that'll be clear to you what that means, single loop versus multi-loop, as we start getting into our circuit diagrams today. And then the third video will be about the case of what happens if you have a circuit that has both resistors R and capacitors C. So we'll get into the dynamics of an RC circuit. So those will be, as I think about it, the 3 videos. So we're just going to start today with the simplest case, which are single loop circuits. So first of all, maybe we'll think about like the simplest possible case. Let's imagine I have a battery. So we remember a battery is represented by 2 parallel lines of uneven lengths, where the longer length is the positive terminal and the smaller is the negative. And maybe we use a wire, and for our purposes, we'll imagine that this wire has 0 resistance. And we'll connect it to a resistor. And just as a reminder, the resistor is symbolized by a squiggly line like so. So now I've got the battery here, which is our source of voltage. And for this, in circuits, we often don't talk about the battery as having a voltage, and this is a little bit confusing. We talk about it having an EMF, which is symbolized by epsilon. So this stands for EMF. EMF is a bit of it's a historical term, kind of a misnomer. It stands for the electromotive force. Of course, we know that voltage is nothing to do with force, or I shouldn't say it has nothing to do with forces, but it is not voltage is not a force. It's not an example of force. It's a completely different concept. So the battery has an EMF. Sometimes you'll even hear people call it EMF. And this is just really another word for voltage. But in circuit contexts, we often talk about the EMF of the battery rather than the voltage of the battery. So we've got an EMF from the battery, and we have a resistance R from the resistor. And in this case, for instance, I might want to know, well, what would be the current that would circulate in this circuit? And in this case, we could simply say that the current, so if we're looking for the current, we could say that the current, I, is simply going to be equal to the voltage divided by the resistance. And this follows from that basic relationship between IV and R that we've already learned. So this isn't even really a new equation. This is just the basic relationship, what's sometimes called Ohm's law. And so we could just take the EMF. So I could say I, in this case, is whatever the EMF of the battery is divided by the resistance. So for instance, if I said that this battery has an EMF of, say, 12 volts and the resistance is 4 ohms, then I could say in this case it would be 12 over 4, or 3 amperes of current. That's a very, very, very simple case of a single loop, right? We only have one loop here. There aren't multiple ways the current could flow. And I've only got a single battery, and I've only got a single resistor. Now, maybe you have a situation, and we could start thinking about maybe a slightly more complicated situation where it's like, what if I had the same exact thing, only there were multiple resistors in play? And maybe to think about this, we could actually imagine, and this is true, that a battery itself has a certain amount of resistance. So maybe I'm going to cut this here, and I'm just going to note that the battery itself is going to have a certain amount of what we call internal resistance. So I'll call this R internal. In other words, this whole thing that I've just created here, this thing is the battery. Here's the battery. That whole thing is the battery. And it has a certain amount of resistance in addition to having the EMF. And so maybe this internal resistance, maybe just to make life easy, we'll say that this is 2 ohms. And so now I've got two resistances in this circuit. I've got the internal resistance of the battery, and I have this external resistance. Sometimes in this context, we call the external resistance the load resistance. So this load resistance, right? This could be a light bulb, right? It could be some sort of appliance. It's something that the battery is meant to power. This internal resistance is undesirable. This is going to create lost energy, this internal resistance, but there's really just no way around it. Maybe while I'm talking about this, I'll introduce a couple other terms. A lot of terms here. We have EMF and internal resistance and load. But there is this distinction sometimes made between the EMF of the battery and what's sometimes called the open circuit voltage. So the open circuit voltage, this is what the potential difference between the terminals of the battery when the battery is not connected to a circuit. When you connect the battery to the circuit and current starts to flow, you end up getting a lower terminal voltage than you would if the battery were actually connected to the circuit. And that's because of this internal resistance. The internal resistance isn't sort of using up any energy if there's no current. So if the battery isn't connected to a circuit, the voltage across the terminals would be slightly bigger than if it is. And that's because of the energy being used up by this internal resistance. So open circuit voltage, open circuit means, you don't have a complete circuit. It's an incomplete circuit. And so this is sort of like what you might think of as like the ideal EMF of the battery, which is going to be slightly larger than the voltage of the terminals when there is actually current flowing. So let's go back to our example and see if we could calculate the current now. So now, maybe I'll draw a line for the second case. Now there are two resistors, and we have to think about how are we going to factor in that there are two resistors. So the first thing I want to note is that this is what's called a series configuration. And I think we saw this when we talked about capacitors. Series meaning that the two resistors are connected directly to one another. There isn't a direct path from the two ends of the resistors to the battery. In other words, if you were to go from one end of the resistor to the other end of the battery, you'd have to travel through a separate resistor. I don't know how clear that is. Maybe let's zoom in and just make sure that we all understand what I'm trying to say here. If I were to zoom in on this picture, if I were to imagine a path starting here, so the current is going to flow in this case, the conventional or positive current is going to flow in this sort of counterclockwise clockwise direction. And so if I imagine the current as it goes through this first load resistance, then there isn't a path. I can't get to the negative terminal of the battery without going through this other resistor. So in that sense, they are in series. So in the series configuration, the question is, how do we combine these two resistances? And it might be intuitive to you that if you had these two resistors in series, that their resistances are going to be additive. And that is because the current has no choice but to go through both resistors. Since it's a single loop, the current has to go through both. So in a series configuration, the total R, I'll write this out, R equivalent, or the total R, is going to be equal to R1 plus R2, etc. We could have 3, 4, 5, 100 different resistors, and if they're in series, you simply sum them up. So in this case, the equivalent resistance of the two resistors, the total resistance, when you add up these two, would be 6 ohms, 4 plus 2. And that means that if I were now to go ahead and calculate the current, I would say the current again is going to be the EMF over the total resistance. So that's simply 12 over 6, or 2 amps of current going through this very simple circuit. So that's the way that we will add up the resistors when they're in series configuration. When we start looking at multi-loop circuits in the next video, that's when we're going to get into the case of the parallel resistors. So more on that a little bit later. I I think maybe I'll mention one other thing right now, which is that there is another way of evaluating this circuit that you probably wouldn't do in this particular case, but you could. Another way of sort of thinking about the circuit rather than using Ohm's law, and that is a very famous rule. It's one of two rules associated with this guy Kirchhoff, and this is Kirchhoff's loop rule. This is the first of two of Kirchhoff's rules. And what the loop rule says, and this is really just a consequence of the conservation of energy. If you go around a circuit, if you make a complete loop around a circuit, the total potential difference from start to finish has to be zero. In other words, any energy supplied by the battery has to be used up at the resistor. Or to put it differently, any energy that the resistor uses had to have come from the battery. So for instance, maybe if I were to think about starting at, let's say, this point A, I imagine the path of a charge as it moves from point A. As it moves along the circuit, it's got a certain amount of energy from the battery, and that energy gets used up in the load, in this case the external resistor. That energy gets used up, and then when it goes across the circuit and then it enters the battery, then it sort of gains that energy back. And so the energy that particular charge gains from the battery is then lost or used up when the charge goes across the resistance. Again, conservation of energy. And so so I'll write this out. So the loop rule states quite simply that the total change in voltage through a closed loop is zero. In other words, rather than thinking about this loop from the perspective of Ohm's law, we could use Kirchhoff's loop rule. So what I would say here is that if I imagine the loop starting at point A, moving to let's say point B and C, and then maybe D, and right in here E, because I've got two resistors. If I were to imagine the amount of potential, we would get something like this. You could imagine a graph. It would look something like this if I graphed the potential associated with a charge as it moved from these different points. And if we start at point A, and then B, C, D, and then E. So a charge at point A is going to have the full potential of 12 volts. Okay, because it's just emerged from the battery and it's moving along its path. And then there's going to be a voltage drop. Some of the energy, remember what voltage is. Voltage is energy per unit charge. So the charge is going to lose energy as it goes through the load resistance here. And there's going to be a voltage drop. And to figure out what that voltage drop is, we can again invoke Ohm's law. So the voltage drop here, maybe I'll do this in black here. I'll say the voltage drop here is going to be equal to the current times the resistance. And we already calculated the current is 2, and the resistance we said is 4. So the voltage drop here is going to be 4 volts. So, 8 volts. So that means the voltage by the time we get to point C will have dropped. So here we have the voltage from A to B. It remains constant because we're assuming there's no current in the wire. And then that energy, that potential per unit charge, or that energy per unit charge, that voltage is going to drop from 4 or from 12 all the way down to 4. It's going to decrease by 8 as it goes through the resistance. And then again, as it travels through the connecting wire, it's going to remain unchanged, right? As it goes from here, as it goes from here to here, it remains unchanged. And then again, as it goes from D to E, as it crosses this other resistor right here, it's going to lose some more energy. So there's going to be another voltage drop, delta V here, and that's going to be, again, I times R, which is 2 times 2, or 4 volts. And so now the voltage drops down from 4 to 0. And then if we continued the loop, of course, as it went across the battery, then it would gain the 12 volts back. And so that's how this circuit continues to sort of continue to work over and over and over again, is that the charges are gaining energy as they cross the battery, and then they're losing energy throughout the resistance. So that's just another way of analyzing this particular situation using Kirchhoff's loop rule. The loop rule is often less useful when you're thinking about a single loop circuit, but as we'll see when we get into multi-loop circuits, it's really, really helpful there.